Okay, so I am being called to share this. Okay, so I had a dream the other night, and I have lots of dreams now that my nervous system has settled down. And how did I start? Number one, how did I start dreaming? Because I used to not dream. I dreamt whenever I was a kid, and then life happened and I stopped dreaming. And every now and then, throughout the years, I had a dream or whatever. But when I left about a year ago, I started dreaming again. And the reason why is because I did this. I set an alarm for 2:30, 3 o'clock a.m. and it would wake me up. And in that waking up state, I would be, subconsciously in a dream. And waking myself up in the middle of the night like that allowed me to wake up in the middle of my dream state, and at which point I was able to write down my dream of what was going on in the midst of that. And it took a little bit for me to, sometimes I would wake up with the alarm and just be like, what? No. Go back to sleep. And sometimes I would wake up and I would be in the middle of a dream, and it's like, I don't understand this, but we're going to write this down. And there's been tons of journals where it was just scribble. Like you can't read what I wrote, but it got better over time. And then it got to where I didn't have to have the alarm, that I could wake up, in the morning and remember my dreams. And now I remember them, and, I write them down, and legible handwriting, which is great. But what I've discovered is that your dream state speaks in symbols. It takes all of the experiences in your life experiences, the movies that you've seen, the memories that you have, the things that you have witnessed, the things that you've heard, the things that you've tasted, felt throughout your entire life. And everyone's life is different. So they take all of that. I say they, but I mean you and your subconscious takes all of that and interprets it into some sort of dream, and including nightmares as well. So you really don't have nightmares beyond using things beyond what you've already seen in your reality, and that could have been taken from movies, things like that. So your most scariest dreams are interpretations and symbols of things that you've already experienced on your external world. My phone's about to die, so give me just a second. Let me find my charger. Okay, so it takes all of these symbols and all of these different things that you've witnessed, and it turns it into some sort of storyline. And sometimes it's pointless, maybe. Maybe I haven't really looked into the ones that seemed pointless, but a lot of the times it turns it into a storyline where your subconscious is trying to tell you something or bring something to your awareness or something along those lines, because I believe that your subconscious is trying to speak to your conscious state to help you grow, because we are human beings and we're always needing to grow. And again, it's your choice whether or not you decide to take whatever symbolism that's around you and grow from that. It's your choice, or you can stay stagnant and wherever you're at. But they speak in symbols of emotions, boundaries, stress, and then those subconscious patterns. Not literal predictions or anything along those lines, but just trying to get you to understand your internal or your environment that you missed. And so if you see a dragon in your dream, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to see a dragon on the outside world. It means that maybe dragons symbolize creativity, protection, fire, passion, and things along those lines. So I guess it would be your responsibility. I know that I see it this way for me, but it would be, your responsibility to take your dream state and, take out the core symbolisms that happened in your dream and turn it into information for you to move forward with. And if it doesn't make any sense, it doesn't make any sense. That's fine. But at least you did your due diligence and you looked into it. So let me tell you about my dream. My dream was I heard, I was at home and I heard my doorbell ring, and this lady, and I heard my doorbell ring and then knock, and I opened the door and there was this lady, and she looked at me, but then she looked past me to my backyard, and she saw somebody in my backyard that she knew, and so she just barged in, just like completely ignored me and barged in. And I was like, hey, like, you can't do that. This is my home. Like, get out. Like, trying to get her to like see me, but she just like dismissed me, and she went to the backyard and she started talking to this person that was in the backyard, this gentleman, and he was a complete stranger. I had no idea who this was, and he was using my grill, so he was grilling, and this lady was there, and I was trying to get her to leave because trying to understand this whole situation. Meanwhile, I had sat my brother down, and he had cerebral palsy, on the swing when I went to go answer the door. And while I was trying to get this lady, trying to understand what was going on with this lady, trying to get her out or whatever it may be, my brother had fallen off the swing. And keep in mind, my brother had cerebral palsy, and so that meant that he couldn't walk or talk or anything. He could just wiggle his way, and that's what he did. He wiggled his way off the swing, and he fell on the porch. And so I woke up to the view of him laying on the porch, and just like, hey, like, forgot about me, like, pick me up. So so I woke up and I was like, okay, let me write this down and try to figure out what's going on here. There must be a deeper meaning to it, because I hadn't seen my brother in a pretty long time. He passed away in 2015, in December of 2015. So him showing up in my dream obviously means something. And then the lady intruding, so I wrote it all down, and it's been a few days, and I've kind of tore it apart and looked at the symbolisms and wrote everything down. And I also used one of the cards to try to figure out what was going on underneath the surface of this dream, and I had pulled the wound of the softened blow. So we're going to use this as an interpretation of the dream as well. And I'm not sure why I'm sharing all of this, but I'm feeling called to share it. So if anyone wants to know how to start dreaming or interpret their dreams in such a way that it helps them see something that needs to be looked at, here you go. I'm in a complete vulnerable state here. I don't know what's going to come of this. Okay, so some of the core wounds and core symbolisms in my dream was obviously the front door. That's a big symbolism in dreams, apparently. The woman shoving past me, that was a symbolism. The unknown man in my backyard using my grill, that was a symbolism. That was a main core part of my dream. And then just my brother falling off the swing while I was attending to, unnecessary drama. That was also a core symbolism. So I went ahead and I looked at all of these, and I've kind of picked them apart. And the front door usually symbolizes, and I wrote it all down, obviously, so I'm going to read what I've written down here. So the front door usually symbolizes personal boundaries, those who get access into your life. Discernment, it symbolizes safety, who is allowed emotionally into your life. And someone knocking usually means that there is an issue or a person or a memory or an energy seeking entry. And I was like, that's interesting. Okay. And then the woman shoving past me, symbolism means something along the lines of someone was ignoring my boundaries, obviously. A person who dismissed me in my waking life, it could be, but that didn't fit because I don't have anybody around me except my children. Intrusive stress, probably. Unresolved resentment, other people's chaos entering my space. Situations where no wasn't respected. So that could be all of the different types of symbolisms for this woman just shoving past me in my own home. And then the unknown man in the backyard using my grill. So here is what I've researched is the backyard often symbolizes your private life, your subconscious space, or what's happening behind the scenes. So a stranger grilling can symbolize using my own resources, my own energy, comfort, or emotional space without my permission. And then the grilling can also represent heat, passion, processing, transformation, or tension. So that was interesting, right? And then my brother falling. This was apparently a very powerful symbolism here. Sorry, I'm like holding my phone because I've got it charged up. Okay, let's see if I can keep this steady and still. All right. So siblings in dreams is very powerful, apparently. It often symbolizes family bonds, innocence, a sense of responsibility, vulnerable parts of yourself, or someone you care deeply about. And because he fell while I was being distracted by the intruder, the dream may have reflected that I was managing chaos caused by neglect of what truly matters, boundary violations that pulled my attention away from my loved ones, external drama costing something precious, and part of me feeling guilty for being forced into survival mode. So the message here is when unwanted people or problems invade your space, something important gets neglected. It could be your peace, your family, your self-care, your emotional stability, or your vulnerable parts of your inner self. And I was like, okay, well, what do I do about this? Like, what's the practical steps here? If this is what's going on in my subconscious, what is my practical first steps? And it is to reclaim my front door, say no to something that's draining my energy, clean my space, reduce access to someone intrusive, focus on my family, or prioritize my own nervous system. So protecting what is tender first would be my first next step. All right, so I was like, how does this wound of the softened blow come into play at? Because let me read it to you. It says, harm disguised as love or care. This wound forms when control, criticism, or manipulation is delivered in the language of affection. You're hurt, but told it's for your own good. It can leave you confused about what love really is, questioning your own instincts, and struggling to trust what feels good without the fear of the hidden cost. Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, how does this play into my dream? Like what's going on there, you know? And it's about harm that enters quietly, indirectly, and under a social acceptable cover, so it's harder to stop in real time. I was like, because this lady just like social normal conditions of knocking on the door, right? I open the door and she just barges in. Yeah. Okay, let me switch my pages here. All right, so I asked, how does the dream mirror this wound, right? And the woman knocking first, she didn't break down the door. She appeared normal, requesting entry through socially acceptable gestures, right? And so when it comes to the softened blow, the intrusion that looks polite at first, right? It's harm disguised as love or care. Intrusion that looks polite at first. And then disrespect disguised as normal behavior. She just walked right past me and ignored it. Like, this was my home. Like, what are you doing? Like, no, that's not how this is going to work. And then access gained through the appearance of innocence. Like, that could be a potential too. All right, number 2 of how this dream mirrored this wound is she dismissed me in my own home. So once the door opened, she ignored my authority. And this mirrors real life dynamics where someone minimizes your voice, overrides your boundaries, acts like your space is theirs, and treats your objection as irrelevant. She did not hear me. So the softened blow of this is that it's not always about yelling or violence, but subtle dominance over your own space. I was like, that's interesting. Number 3 is I kept telling her to leave, but she ignored me. And this wound typically forms when your no is repeated, but not honored. And over time, people internalize that and they state to themselves, you know, maybe I'm not allowed to enforce my boundaries. Maybe I need to explain myself a little bit more. Maybe being firmer makes me the problem. I was like, oh yeah. Yeah, that sounds familiar. Very interesting. Interesting. Okay, and then while another way that the dream had mirrored this wound is number 4. While dealing with the intrusion, someone vulnerable got hurt. Right, so my attention was pulled away from my brother, away from what mattered, and this is exactly what subtle abuse looks like. It drains your emotional bandwidth, where your emotions are tied to one thing while it's supposed to be tied to something else, and you can't stretch it. Like, you can't focus on one. The chaos takes all of your emotions. Redirects your attention to manage dysfunction, causes self-neglect or neglect of important relationships. This is what the softened blow does, right? Harm disguised as love or care. So you end up neglecting because your attention is elsewhere towards dysfunction. So you end up neglecting yourself or those that you care about. And then it creates a sense of guilt afterwards. It's like, I should have been there. I can't believe that this happened. And so this guilt forms because of this wound. So I was like, well, why exactly is this called the softened wound, like the softened blow? What do you mean? Let's go a little bit more in depth with it. And it was like, because if the woman had violently broken in, the danger would have been obviously. But it wasn't. Instead, she knocked, she entered under normal pretenses, ignored limits, and forced confusion. And so that ambiguity is what creates this softened blow. It makes you spend time deciding whether this is wrong instead of stopping it. Yeah. And so my psyche was telling me that I know what it feels like when something harmful enters the ordinary. When something harmful enters looking ordinary. And by the time that I recognized it, the damage had already occurred. So I was like, okay, so what do we do? What do we do? What's the antidote to this wound? And it's early discernment, trust discomfort sooner, no explanation for heavy boundaries, and close the door faster when respect disappears. Not every threat arrives aggressively. Some arrive polite and then consume the room. Right? And then while I'm sitting with all of this, I get a cup of tea, and on my tea bags comes with this little thing, right, on the tea bags, and mine that I get the kava tea. It's like really nice and wonderful tea, and it says compassion is your strength. was like, okay. How does this play into this whole factor? Because I feel like it does. Like I feel like it's a puzzle piece that needs to be put in all of this. And here's what came out. Many compassionate people were taught to use compassion without boundaries, and that's where strength gets misdirected. People with this wound become highly compassionate because they can sense the nuances in the situation. But then that compassion gets weaponized against them. Compassion at its strongest is when paired with discernment, and that means compassion without boundaries becomes access. So when it says compassion is your strength, it was saying that I have compassion, but without boundaries becomes access. Compassion with boundaries becomes wisdom. So it says, I understand why you acted this way, and I will not allow it to affect my life. And that is mature compassion. And I guess if I could have changed anything, it would have been acknowledging that my attention is sometimes pulled into unnecessary chaos, or it was. And because of that, something valuable suffered, and it could have been all of the different things that I said previously. And what could I have done differently? Turn my attention to what matters the most instead of trying to persuade this woman to leave my home. I should have went directly to my brother, right? Prioritize the mission first. Fewer words, more actions. I told her to leave repeatedly, but she ignored me. And so I could have enforced boundaries even more if I stopped debating with this woman and just completely block access. Refusing to manage someone else's urgency. She acted like her agenda mattered most. And other people's urgency is not your responsibility to hold. And then just trust the first violation. If someone disrespects you, that is immediately your sign to close access. You don't need another one. So I'm not sure exactly why I felt compelled to share this, other than if someone needs an example of how dreams are interpreted, maybe, I don't know. And maybe proof that the things around us give us signs to help us interpret our external reality in other ways. Or proof that this world is more than what it seems. Yes, you can get up and go to work and get back home and make supper and go to sleep, which is what I did my entire life. Or you can do that and also see the subtle signs of something bigger happening. Oh my gosh, and this is the one from the other day. And I just saw it. And it says, the only thing that can limit you is believing that you are limited. Become limitless. All right, I'm getting chill bumps. Y'all have a great day.